Hi team, Coach Alexa here. I thought I'd talk a little bit about timing of fueling and some of the science behind that today. So this study that I'm going to talk about was done in the context of cycling. The results apply to running, hiking, all sorts of endurance related activities and sports. So a study was done a good few years ago now, where they had a group of cyclists in the lab on static bikes doing effectively a ramp test, so a sort of progression session, so an endurance base over a decent amount of time, but it was ramping up, getting more and more tough, more higher resistance basically on the bike. So what they did is they split these cyclists into three groups. One group just got plain water to drink, all the same volumes of liquid across all three. The middle group got a sports drink, so water but with some sugars in it for fuel, for energy. And the third group got what they thought was a sports drink, tasted like a sports drink, but it actually had sweetener in it, not sugar. So it tasted sweet, but it didn't have any fuel in it at all. So what happened over this kind of ramp tests for the cyclists? The people who had water, they started to fade. So as the ramp test went up and up and up, their heart rate went higher, their effort level went higher, their demand on that quick release energy got higher, their performance started to drop off a bit when compared to the sports drink group in the middle. They were getting that energy coming in as they were cycling, so they were able to hang on for longer and perform better for longer as the intensity of the ride went up. Now, what was interesting is that you could see in this sports drink group that they had a little bit of a lift in performance almost as soon as they drank the sports drink, but also again about half an hour later after they drank it. So you got a kind of a double peak, a double benefit from taking on board some energy immediately and then around 30 minutes later. Now, what is even more fascinating is in the fake sports drink group, they also had a benefit as soon as they drank the fake sports drink, but didn't get that peak 30 minutes later. So what's going on here? So from that experiment and subsequent research into sports fueling, what they've discovered is happening is that it takes around 30 minutes for what you are eating to actually go through the various steps in your digestive system. So into your stomach, it gets processed, it goes into your intestines, the chemicals get drawn out into your bloodstream, undergoes further chemical changes, get turned into glycogen, gets transported to your muscles where it is used as fuel. So this is where our 30 minutes comes from. So even if you're talking about sugar, which is a really simple form of food, needs minimal digestion compared to, I don't know, high fibre sort of fruit, it takes at least 30 minutes for what you eat to actually get to your muscles to provide that energy. So in the real sports drinks group with the fuel in it, that's where they're getting their peak at, the real fuel hitting their muscles 30 minutes after they've taken it on board. However, when you eating something that has some fuel in it, or in the cyclist case, drinking that sugary drink, as far as the brain concerns, it can pick up on that taste and it goes, oh, we've got some fuel coming. Even though that fuel's going to hit our muscles in 30 minutes time, I'm going to allow you to go a little bit further, to feel a little bit better, to push a little bit faster now, because I know that fuel is coming. So that was happening as well to the fake sports drink people. The brain thought that the body was going to get fuel in 30 minutes time, even though it wasn't, because it was fooled by the sweeteners. So a couple of things that this experiment tells us, one of which is be careful when planning your fueling. So if you wait until the point where you're feeling really hungry, you're feeling low on energy, you desperately feel like you need to take on board some fuel, unfortunately, you left it a little bit too late, because what you eat then isn't actually going to hit your muscles for at least another 30 minutes. So when you're thinking about your fueling strategy on a long run, a long bike ride, a long walk, it's little and often, and it's starting taking on board fuel earlier. So if on a long run, you're like, right, I'm going to start taking on board some energy at 45 minutes into that run, the earliest point that's actually going to be effective and usable by your muscles is an hour and 15 minutes in your run, so half an hour later. The other thing that we can take on board from this experiment, though, is the psychological benefit of just having a sip of something. So, take your kilometre number 18 of a half marathon. You've got 3 more kilometres to go in the race. And you're sitting there thinking, well, if I eat something now, it's probably not going to hit my leg muscles until around the finish or after the finish. But you could still get a psychological boost from taking on board some energy, from having a sip of sports drink, to give your brain that knowledge that fuel is coming. So you could still use it for the psychological benefits, that bit of an energy pick-me-up, to persuade the brain that it's going to get some energy soon and keep going towards the end of a race. There's even some evidence to show, and it's quite a popular tactic in things like full Ironman distance triathlons, where people have been going for hours and hours and hours and hours, and often are feeling a little bit queasy with all the sugary stuff that they're taking on board, of swilling a sugary drink around your mouth and spitting it out. Because again, the body is picking up on that taste of that sugar, and it thinks that some fuel is coming, and it can give us that little bit of a boost in performance. So food for thought there, pun definitely intended.